Thank you guys so much for being here and being part of this. Let me start by thanking the great crowd. They were phenomenal. Our fans showed up today. We're going to continue to need them to show up, but they did a great job. It started with the Tiger Walk. You could just feel the sense, the passion being back in our home stadium. And it's phenomenal. And that's something like we can hang our hat on as Tiger fans and Memphians, like 12 straight home opening wins. Like that's something to be really, really proud of. And credit should go to the fans. They did a great job. Obviously, we were able to give a moment of silence for Mayor Morris, which is very, very important to us and our community in the city of Memphis. You guys saw the FWS patches on our jerseys. Obviously, we're going to have the opportunity to honor Mr. Smith throughout forever. But obviously, those patches is a small way we can honor him, his family, and everything that he meant to this community. So pleased with it. We were able to do those things. Great. Someone had told me Jaron Jackson Jr. was there, so that's great. Love the Grizz showing up and supporting us. I think that's great when the community can always support one another. And we always, we've had Grizzlies show up, whether it's Ja or previous Desmond Bain guys that have showed up and support our Grizzlies. So we are grateful for that and those relationships. Obviously, look, it's great to get a win. Very pleased. It's hard to win college football games, right? Anybody that put on and watch some of the scores, I turned off my cell phone last night and I woke up and I saw what happened to Army, right? Like, look, and Army's a 12-win team last year that won the conference and was upset by an FCS opponent. So college football is hard. It's getting harder every week, every year to win football games. So pleased with the win. The one thing I can tell you this is we're close to where we need to be. Game one, you get to see a lot of things. And post game, I asked the guys, I said, let me ask you this. How many of you guys need to improve to next week? And every single person to a T rose their hands. And I do that a lot going into game one, but we're going to continue to find out more about this team moving forward. But pleased with a lot of things. Obviously, Chauncey Logan, I've been bragging on him with that great interception. Look at DeMarco Ward. That's a great stat. You go in for your first play of defense, playing safety, and you get a pick six. So I like those stats. If we can continue to have him be the first play in, get those pick sixes, I think we're going to continue to do that moving forward. 9 tackles for losses. Whitlow with the blocked field goal. Those are the things you want to see. Offensively, pleased to see, Sutton Smith do some really good things. His first touchdown since the Liberty Bowl game versus Iowa State. We had 10 different guys catch the football, right? So it kind of shows you, I told you we had depth and we know we're going to throw not only to the running backs, to the tight ends, but to our wide receivers. Too many drop passes, all in all today. We left a lot of yards out there they could have been capable of, and a lot to clean up, okay? The ebbs and flows of a football game, we were not consistent enough on offense to be where we need to be, and then defensively, too many missed tackles, okay? When it's all said and done, you find a way to win a football game by a significant margin. You're pleased with it. We'll celebrate all the wins. As you guys know, the immediate focus will turn to finding ways to improve ourselves and focused on Georgia State.
So how would you assess Brennan Lewis's play at quarterback, and then do you have an update on Greg Williams about this?
Yeah, so Brennan Lewis, I thought he did some really good things, right? I think, his whole deal is, he told me at his previous stop, he felt like he had to win every game, first play of the first quarter. And there were some things that he'll be the first to tell you, could have done a better job with this. Maybe it was a run-pass option and should have handed the ball off, right? One of those, maybe he should have kept it instead of handing it off, right? So, just giving what the defense gives us and taking that to the best of our advantage and understanding. But I thought he did some really good things. He's really calm, cool, and collected on the sideline. He did a great job leading the guys. He's passionate. He loves Memphis, and no one's going to be harder on himself than him. He's going to sit there and said, his assessment of himself wasn't good enough. But I thought he did some really good things. He's playing winning football. We'll get some of those stuff corrected. The interception, he'll tell you it was on him. Obviously, there was a fault in protection that allowed the free hit on him. And when it's all said and done, we'll get a lot cleaned up. Greg Duosier, we sent him to the locker room. He had a lower body injury. And then it was my decision when they said, hey, we're going to evaluate. I said, hey, let's just keep him in the locker room. So that was 100% my decision. We're going to see where he's at. We're going to continue some more examination, and hopefully I have an answer for you early this week.
Hey, Coach, I know it's early. You're never happy with your team performance. How would you grade all 3 units for the first game?
Yeah, you're going to have me put a grade on them. Look, you win a football game, but there's a lot to be worked upon. Let's just go all B minuses, right? That's, really, really, that way when you write, you're not like, yeah, he was too sweet, too nice, but like, look, some really good things. I think you win a football game by 35 points, a home opener. you do some of those things, you get, in essence, 2 turnovers, a pick six, and play relatively clean, right? We had a couple penalties here and there. But, all 3 phases I thought did pretty well. It's just the consistency, Terry. And I think for us to have sustained success throughout the season, starting next week even, we're going to have to be pretty darn consistent in all the phases. So a lot of work to be done, but excited to get back to the drawing board.
Devin?
Coach, how much is Brendan Lewis's legs kind of unlike the rest of the running game? Because you saw a couple of times when we ran the ball, you asked him to break up on line. How much is his legs kind of open up there? 'Cause we haven't seen a running quarterback in Memphis in a long time.
You're saying Seth Hennigan and Brady White weren't running quarterbacks? Well, Seth was here. He may be in the parking lot and get him to come back and talk to you. No. Yeah, look, that's a unique aspect he brings to the game. We knew his legs and the ability to run the ball. I think he ran for over 600 yards last year. That was an added weapon or an added tool to his tool belt. And I've said it all along. A lot of you guys say, hey, Ryan, how much was the offense really changing with him? And they're short implements. Like a lot of the plays we ran today, he just saw that defensive end pull down and he just kept the ball and was able to keep it, right? And so some of those, we were able to do some of those things with those reads. We had one, I think, quarterback draw. It was really a draw pass option. And so it was all said and done. He took it down, got the first down. But that extra element, I think hopefully it keeps defensive honest. People are going to sit there. Maybe they start spying us a little bit more. It's something else to prepare for, and that's what you want.
Jonah?
With Sutton, obviously, last year, first game, we know what happened. He gets the play, gets that touchdown. Just how did you kind of assess the performance overall?
Yeah, look, I was very pleased with Sutton. You sit there, and especially when Greg went down, hey, now you got to carry the heavy load for the most part. And then he was the kickoff returner, right, the punt returner. Oh, and by the way, now you're also the starting running back. So just pleased with him. I think so much when an injury happens like that, game one of a season, he was a starting running back going into the last season. We always talk about the physical rehabilitation. We talked about this the other day at the press conference. And then, Jonah, I think then the mental aspect, like, man, how's this knee going to hold up the first time I get hit? And just the first time, and then he ripped that pen up, the counter scheme, and just ripped it right down for the touchdown. I mean, that's what you want. And just so pleased for him. More than anything, he got his confidence back. And, he'll tell you right now he's going to go take care of his body and be ready to bounce back for next week.
John?
So one of the concerns that you talked about was how guys would perform with the lights turned on.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that Bob talked about, how did you feel the communication was amongst the guys? That they haven't played a whole bunch of football.
Yeah, John, I think that's part of it. Right? One of our keys to victory going into this game, with part of playing detailed and disciplined football, was having great communication. And that communication had to occur in all 3 phases, right? It doesn't matter what we said in the huddle about the opening kickoff, right? Hey, see the ball off the tee. And, man, that guy just freaking wailed it right off of Brady Cluse's foot, and good for them, right? They stole possession. We'll continue to put our guys in a better position to be able to handle those things. But the communication was there. I thought, and I told them that the communication on the field is the most important. In between the white lines, hey, the checks, the unbalances, the empty checks, all right, the offense seeing different pressures, all right, some even checks we had on special teams were all part of it. And then they came to the sidelines, and the communication was even better. We had some issues with our DV Sport, but that's okay. So our guys just sat there and have great memory recall on the things they need to get done, and I was quite pleased with that. And if you look over, the guys are all pretty dialed in, and the communication is going to be one of those things we're going to have to continue to work on and continue to improve upon. But I was pretty pleased with it for game one.
John Carlos?
Coach, you mentioned defense missed some tackles, but other than that one touchdown drive, you guys really limited Chattanooga to very few yards. But what was the defense doing well today here?
Yeah, John, I think the missed tackles is a byproduct of just maybe game one trying to do things. We tell them to always take shots on the ball and try to force those fumbles. But I sat there and I think they responded, right? We gave up some bigger plays, and they sat there and said, okay, come on, let's dig our cleats in the ground. We got them to 4th down some. The 3rd down, finding ways to get off the ball. I think when you have 9 TFLs, that gives you an opportunity to go and pin your ears back, right? Hey, here comes a screen, or they're going to try a quick passing game. I was pleased by the rotation of guys. I mean, we literally put DeMarco Ward in because we said, okay, DeMarco's going to give us the best chance to go in right now at safety, not because of the score of the game. It had nothing to do with that. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw the rotation of the defensive line. All of a sudden, DeMarco goes in and gets that pick 6. So you're pleased with those things. Anytime you have the opportunity to get 2 takeaways and a blocked field goal, like I mentioned earlier, quite pleased with. But they'll every single one will tell you we got to continue to be better. I thought they limited explosive plays for the most part, but they ripped off too many big runs, and I think that we were there. We just didn't make the hits where we needed to.
Back down to Terry.
Hey, Coach, with all the new pieces on offense, how do you like the chemistry, not the execution of offense, but the chemistry developing with all those new pieces?
Yeah, Terry, I think that's something you and I we talked about before. Is like, how do you build that camaraderie in this day and age in college football? So many new faces. And I think that's something that had to start in January, right? And trusting the guys to kind of lead and kind of to take a step up and then get to know each other. We talked about that being even in training camp, right? An offensive guy may be paired up with a defensive guy, and that may be a freshman and a senior. And then you talk about how we do the locker rooms, and we talk about going to lunch and being able to put their cell phones and having one-on-one conversations and tell me about what's your why and why do you play football, and tell me a little bit more about yourself. And so then I said, that's not just to get to know your teammates. That's so when crap hits the fan on Saturdays, you can look at each other and say, you know what, I got your back. And I think that's unique. This group really cares about one another. And it's so weird or strange to say in such short timing, right? Some of our guys have been with us for 2 months. Cortez Braham's been with us for a few hours now, I think, right? So, but I think what's happened is everybody embraces each other. They understand the culture that they've all helped create, right? They understand the standards and the expectations here. And so all they care about is winning football games and doing it together. They love each other. It's been so fun, Terry, because my job's gotten easier because they love each other. They're going to fight for each other. They're going to fight for the name on the front of their shirt as well. We talk about everybody plays for the name on the back, but man, they really love that Memphis, and that's important to me. A prime example is Brennan Lewis, right? Came here, and I'm just telling you, he loves this place. He'll be the first to tell you his career has brought him here, and certain things have taught him certain lessons. But when he lays his head down, he's like, man, I wish I had the opportunity to play here, play for you, play with these brothers. But they all feel the same, and it's been so much fun because we're not out there, hey, having to motivate, say this is what you got to do, let's go get it. And I'm pleased with that mindset and that approach, and they'll continue to bond as the season goes on.
We'll finish with Jonah and then Frank.
You mentioned something earlier. You had that happen at the beginning of last season when Greg goes out today. First of all, do you think back to that at all? And also just emotionally in the middle of the game, how do you deal with someone goes out and not only next man up, but also as a team you got to kind of rally?
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, I think in the flow of the game, you don't have the opportunity to sit there and say, oh my gosh, this happened to us last year, right? Especially because we weren't sure the extent of Greg's injury, and it's part of it. It was one of those, hey, they came to me on the sideline, let's keep them in the locker room, that's great. And then, I think what happens is that next man up mentality. I don't care if it's the backup long snapper or Sutton Smith going in. We've got full belief in everybody on this roster. And I think part of it is, right, like, man, going in and watching Sutton rip off that counter play. And then whoever it is, right, these wide receivers, again, 10 guys catching the football. So, Jonah, I think that belief and that trust and getting those guys the reps has been huge, right? No different. We rotate a ton of linebackers, even not because of the score of the game, because those guys are going to need that work. They're going to play for us. And I've told you all along, like, I can't sit here and say, hey, the top of our roster is the most talented we've ever had, but we've got depth, and we're going to need that depth to show up, and I think that's part of it. So when that happened today, man, I've got full faith in Sutton Smith and the rest of those guys in that running back room that they'll handle the business no matter what it is.
Frank.
I know people wondered how much Cortez will be part of the offense. Just what do you think about the reps he did at the beginning of the game?
Yeah, like I said, I thought he did a really nice job with some of the stuff, right? To be thrown in as late as he was into this offensive system to learn it, the dude loves football. I told you guys all along, like, the number one thing, I want guys that fit into our culture. They're going to do it the way we do, that care about the academics, making great decisions. But I want people that love football. There's a lot of talented guys out there, Frank, but Cortez loves ball. And so he eats it. He loves it. He's studying his playbook all the time. So he went out there and made some plays, but he'll be the first to tell you, I was probably 2 yards short on this route. I probably should have done this or should have done that. Obviously, it helps that, his former quarterbacks here, they're studying a lot of the playbook together at night, but pleased with what he's able to do. Again, he didn't start the game, but he's one of those guys that stepped in and filled the necessary role.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.